Welcome, children of the night, and happy 4th of July to you all who will not be watching this on the 4th of July. It is time for another edition of the Cradle of Filth discography reviews. This time we are talking about none other than Midian. Coming off the heels of their massively popular single From the Cradle to Enslave, we now have this album, and this album signaled a tremendous change in direction for the band, a tremendous lineup change. They no longer have Nick Barker on drums, Lecter on keyboards, and Stewart on guitars. Now they have been replaced by Paul Allender, one of the original founding members, who is now rejoining the fold, Adrian Erlandson on the drums, and Martin Powell on the keyboard. They still have Robin Graves and John Pyrus, which I've been pronouncing his name wrong. Thank you to the person that alerted me to this in the comments of another video. But yeah, this is an album that signaled a big change in direction from some of their earlier albums. Cruelty and the Beast had a really thin production. Dusk in Her Embrace also had a very much rawer production. This one is a more polished production, a more fuller production, with Paul Allender being back in the mix. The guitars are driven more by rhythmic, riffy, palm muted riffs. Even the melody is more rhythmic than flowy, if you know what I mean. It's less reliant on the twin melodies. They're still present, but it's less reliant on twin melodies and dual riffing than it is on just riffage. You know, punk oriented. It derivative from punk, but not punk. Almost thrashy, but not thrashy. I don't even know if that makes any sense. Heavy as fuck. Searing guitar riffs. The keyboard is omnipresent on this album. The keyboard, Martin really knows how to throw down on a fucking keyboard, let me tell you, and it really adds a lot of atmosphere. The female vocals are much more pronounced in this release. It signaled a change from more of a symphonic black gothic metal to just a pure symphonic gothic metal. But they don't lose any of their pizzazz. They don't lose any of their talent. It's quite simply another one of their masterpieces, another notch in the Cradle of Filth belt. They're riding the tide of their creative plateau still with this release. And this release, I think, at that time was the one that garnered them the most commercial success. It's a hell of an album, you guys. 16 years later, listening to it, it still stands the test of time. It has some of my all-time favorite tracks on it. It starts right out with that amazing keyboard intro, the best keyboard intro, the best instrumental intro on any Cradle of Filth album, according to my opinion, that leads right into one of their best openers, a breakneck speed apocalyptic anthem called Cthulhu Dawn, where the guitars just zip zap zig 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 zig, and then he screams out about Cthulhu Dawn. It's just apocalyptic, about shattering the stars and spattering the stars and rending the heavens, and you know, good stuff, which leads right in to Saffron's Curse, which is introduced by a little keyboard riff that keyboard that Martin Powell is so good at doing, and then, you know, the guitars with those slightly tremoloed riffs. I don't know how else to say that gothic, really cold atmosphere to it. It's really eerie. It's kind of a morbid tale of lost love, I guess you would say, or this Saffron that just this lady that just obsesses your mind, or I don't know, something along those nature. And then it leads right into number 4, Death Magic for Adepts, which is a very upbeat, also kind of apocalyptic tune. Like if you listen there at the end, our ship of fools, all boards handmade, sinks dashed by seismic waves. And then from there on you get to my favorite stretch of the album, tracks 5 through 8, Lord Abortion, in which Danny writes in the most poetic fashion I've ever seen about necrophilia. The song starts off with a female voice asking you, care for a little necrophilia? Has a part where it almost sounds rap-ish. Not to throw anybody off, he's not rapping, but it's really rhythmic and rhymey. It's a very good song, very morbid song. He talks about hacking out the vaginal skin so he can masturbate with it later. The chorus is some of the most morbid but great lyric writing. Dub me Lord's abortion, the living dead, the bone saw on the back seat on this bitter night of giving head. A sharp rear entry and exit in red, lump in the throat on my cum choke, a killing joke, worn thin with breath. Yeah. One of my favorite lines in that song, I know I'm sick as Dahmer, but this is what I do. I'll let you sleep when I'm through. And then from there on, it's Amore Morte, a tale of love and death, according to the title, which is another really amazing song. One of the rare songs to have a Cradle of Filth guitar solo. Yes. Fuck yes. On to track number 7, Creatures That Kissed in Cold Mirrors, another great instrumental on the keyboard, which leads right into the single most amazing track off of this album, in my opinion, Her Ghost in the Fog. My God, starts with that piano, dun, 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 and then Doug Bradley from Hellraiser just narrating, the moon she hangs like a cruel portrait, as soft winds whisper the bidding of trees. I don't know, man, this song is just one of my favorite Cradle of Filth songs. Probably comes only second to Queen of Winter Throne. Watch the video for it, it's fucking creepy. But this is such a great song. It has such a great story behind to it. Apparently, these men of God raped and murdered this guy's true love, and so in the ruckus they dropped the key to the church bell tower, and so he decides to lock them inside and burn them fucking alive in the church. Oh yeah. Good shit. Good fucking shit. And then we get with number 9, Satanic Mantra, which is a pretty good lead-in to number 10, Tearing the Veil from Grace, which is another one of their epic, long songs that they love to do towards the end of some of their albums. It's got a lot of wonderfully melodic female vocals. It starts with a slow, brooding, melodic theme, and then it goes into a more rhythmic, furious section, back into a melodic female vocal driven section, into the climactic crescendo where John and Paul do this little twin kind of solo type thing, and then finally on to the last track, Tortured Soul Asylum, which happens to be my least favorite track, and I couldn't really even tell you why. It just don't enjoy it as much. It seems to drag on a little bit. I don't like when they do those slower doom 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 Midian. It's not my thing. But nevertheless, this album is a fucking masterpiece, a real gem in their discography, one of their best, one of their most extravagant. Everything in the production is big, boisterous. It's creepy, Lovecrafty, and horror at its best. Gothic to the max. And even though we've lost Stewart on the guitars don't lose anything, and Martin Powell really brings the thunder when it comes to the keyboards. That's about the best I can describe it musically. Gothic, symphonic, creepy, beautiful, melodic, wonderful lyricism, wonderful flow. It flows from start to finish. To give it a score, I would give it a 95 out of 100. I couldn't rank it in as far as number from their best to worst. I don't even know where it would fall, but it's one of their best. A lot of people give it acclaim and say that it is their best, and to me, Dusk and Cruelty went out over this one, but this one's no slouch either. It is fucking great. Next, we shall be talking about Bittersweets to Succubi, and then from there, Damnation in a Day, and we'll see if Cradle can continue to ride this wave of creative awesomeness. Midian, 95 out of 100. Mad Hat, 4th of July. I'm out. Peace, motherfucker.